Hey, I'm Marc Ross. This is Chad Munitz, longtime friend. Was in my wedding. I was in his wedding. Known each other. Oh my God, man. More than a decade.
Yeah.
More than a few decades. And we decided for 2022, because there's not enough podcasts in the world, to do one more podcast. We're going to meet, every other week and kind of talk about commerce and culture, what's happening in the world. I talk about stuff. Chad actually builds stuff. He loves the Matrix. I hate the Matrix. So that's the show. Chad, you got any thoughts?
You're going to need to learn. You got to learn to love the Matrix because the metaverse is coming. It's the original example of the metaverse.
I'm still confused on the red pill, blue pill thing. I know it's important, but I guess I'm a blue pillar if I haven't seen the Matrix. Is that right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So we're going to talk about 3 or 4 topics and just have a good little chat. Who's that? Was your agent calling you to renegotiate?
Or my sister, same thing.
Our first topic, how to dress. And Chad, you're a man of fashion, and I think we're both kind of interested in this space. And listen, man, I don't know how to dress today. Like, I went to dinner last night for the first time in a while. Didn't know what the hell to wear. I haven't worn a suit. I maybe worn a suit once in 2 years. I actually wore a tie last night, which I thought was kind of cool. But I don't know. Like, what is happening? How are we supposed to dress?
It is a different world out there. Part of it is showing our age. I actually wore a suit without a tie yesterday for a meeting for the first time since COVID, so 2 years.
Did you feel guilty not wearing a tie?
I did. It felt odd, and we were actually given dress code, like don't wear a tie from the company that we were going in to pitch to. They specifically said, don't wear a tie. You can actually wear jeans if you want. Folks on our end will be in jeans.
So they told you what to wear. Do you think they did that as a courtesy just to make your life easier, or?
No, I think they did it as a courtesy.
Yeah. That's interesting.
They did, we would have came in in suits and ties. That's my generation, I guess, we're getting to. You go to an important meeting, you want to show off your best. It was starting way before COVID. We've had summer interns who've complained drastically at our company that all their other friends go to places and are allowed to wear flip-flops and shorts and t-shirts.
Flip-flops. Well, in DC, there's still, the tie still is like super important. I think there's obviously a lot of attorneys, lawyers here, a lot of, former high school class presidents, and it does seem to be, and obviously Capitol Hill and the White House, suit heavy. But yeah, these day-to-day meetings, and then obviously getting so much casual, people working from home more and more. How's that going to change? In some ways, yeah, I think you're spot on. Like, everything's getting more casual anyways, and there's more the rise of athleisure and performance wear, even in business attire. But flip-flops, I don't know, man. That seems like a bridge too far.
It seems like it. And, what's weird about it is I think creating your style and being able to have individuality about things is important as a human. And it's all just blending into homogenous things. It's hard to find people who care about that, who stand out, even if your style is simplicity, like get a black sweatshirt on. It's just fallen away.
Well, I think it's and one of the pods you turned me on to actually was this The Laws of Style by Douglas Hand, and he interviewed Karen Dilley, which I thought was really interesting because of the rise of based on when I talk about fast fashion and like the impact that's having. And I know you're a big fan of Billy Reed, and I'm a big fan of like Sid Mashburn and guys like that. And there's obviously a premium, I think, now to buy better quality stuff that's going to last longer and not have a quick shelf life from stuff that say H&M and stuff. What are you seeing around like fast fashion and the impact on that? Are you seeing people buying better quality stuff, or?
Well, I think in general people are buying better quality stuff, buying less things, and more quality lasts longer. But I see the youth, and I've got a 7th grade, almost 13-year-old daughter. They don't like the fast fashion either. They care about the quality. They care about when things are made. They're just very much more conscious than I ever was about things in the world at that age. And so, she's interested in finding thrifted stuff. So
interesting.
She doesn't quite figure it out how the quality of stuff works, but she, in terms of this is high fashion, this isn't. She knows what she likes. She knows her style, but she doesn't want things that she thinks were built in a sweatshop in some third world country.
But with her friends, her circle of friends are conversing about like, hey, let's be sensitive. Is this going to end up in a landfill pretty quickly? Why are we doing this?
Yep. It's bizarre, but the other side of it is they will constantly need the instant gratification. So if they find
how do you mean that by that?
If they find something on the internet, they want it there tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Well, it's interesting because there's a lot of talk about Amazon and your favorite company, Peloton.
Yeah.
But maybe there is like a chain there, right? Where you're on your bike and you're like, oh my gosh, Jeff Bezos sends me some athleisure gear. I tap on it and Amazon the next day sends me a new sweatsuit. Is that where we're going to?
I think so. I think it's all being interconnected in that instant gratification. It's, at the end of the day, it's driven by marketers. They want your dollars as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So they're figuring out more ways to get into you. Even back to things that kids are doing today, playing video games. That's going to be in the game. There's an outfit you like in Fortnite, and you're going to be able to click on it and buy that. Get that apparel. Going back to that podcast that you mentioned, the way that they are talking about kind of the second hand, and I know there's stores that or sites that are doing that right now, but be able to trace the lineage of some of the fashion that they're talking about is just amazing. So I bought this piece of clothing from Sid Mashburn, Billy Reed, Ralph Lauren, whatever it is, Gucci. And I'm done with it. I've gotten my use out of it. It's a quality piece. It's still in good shape. I want to resell it. You actually resell it through their site.
That's smart.
It's very smart. And I think it brings much back to this brand loyalty, things that marketers love, that if you want great something from Billy Reed and I want that piece that was from 4 years ago, I can go to his site and see it there and see the quality of it and get that same customer service that I get from that company.
Yeah, and it must help the brand obviously too, because then they know where their product is going and they got some quality control over it. And sometimes you want clothes. Sometimes they feel better after they've been worn in a bit and have a little bit of texture, a little bit of life to them. One of my favorite jeans companies out of Wales, High Denim, they're actually running this promo right now, which is pretty interesting, where they have different pieces of denim. And they're stitching them together in a pair of pants. So it's almost like a patchwork pair of jeans, but otherwise these so-called scraps of denim would end up in a landfill somewhere. And they're like, hey, why don't we see if we can't put these together? They're totally original. And let's make use of every piece of fabric that we have instead of sending it to a landfill. Another interesting development.
Yeah, zero waste jeans. That's interesting.
Yeah, they also, High Denim also has this cool thing too, where they have the 1 year club where they encourage their users not to wash their jeans for 1 year, which is also another fascinating approach, because it's not even just the wear and tear, but obviously what happens when we throw stuff into the wash machine and where that ends up.
It is. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I sent you that article. If you had a chance to read that column about Jeff Bezos, actually, what's the guy's name? He's a columnist for the Financial Times, Robert Armstrong.
Why he dresses so bad?
Yeah, the title is "Why is Jeff Bezos such a terrible dresser?" And this is like one of the most read articles ever on the Financial Times, which is also an interesting side experiment. Maybe they should be covering more fashion. But the headline's great, and Bezos has gone through such a transformation, and he himself, like Amazon, is really inching their way into fashion. It's a great article to read about. Do you want to say anything about Jeff Bezos' fashion?
It's terrible.
You agree?
He should stick with the spacesuits. Focus on that.
Maybe the cowboy hat was like the launching pad to bad fashion.
Yeah.
See what I did there? About what's happening in your state, your favorite state.
The only state that matters. From the
heart of it all.
Great shores of Lake Erie to the flowing waters of the Ohio River.
When are you going to be governor? So let's talk about Intel in Ohio. You got a background in economic development. You've done work at the state level, at the county level, at the national level. around economic development. For me personally, like I'm sick of people talking about the Rust Belt. They have no idea what's going on in the Great Lakes, the powerhouse, economic powerhouse that it is. And this investment to me is like just such a game changer. It's absolutely fantastic. Do you have any insights you can share about Intel in Ohio? What's happening?
The biggest thing is the game changer. It is the fact that they're building another plant in the United States and they chose Ohio to do it is such a game changer. And I don't think really any state has seen such a major investment that could change the dynamics of the state since some of the original Asian automakers came here. And Ohio won one of the first automakers. Honda moved to Ohio first, being one of the first Asian automakers to come to the States. The impact of being able to, one, build chips in the United States and start competing on that, and then the ancillary things that come from it. I mean, it's just going to be a huge spinoff for all the state. I'm bummed that it's not in Cincinnati, where it's been my hometown for the last 18 years, but I think we're going to get spinoff effect from that. Putting a chip plant in the middle of the state and be able to drive more of the ancillary people. And then already City of New Albany and City of Columbus, where this is seeing an additional companies start looking for sites. Google wants to be near there. Apple wants to be there. You know, eventually Amazon's going to want. Everybody wants to be near and have an influence on how these chips are made. And the impact that everything today, pretty much besides clothing, needs chips inside of them to continue to operate. It's pretty amazing of how that's going to flow through things.
And just for our listeners, give us the distance between, like, say, Cleveland and Columbus and Cincinnati, about 2 hours, right? Either way, 90 minutes.
So either way, about 2 hours. I mean, Columbus is dead center in the state, and it's about 2 hours north to Cleveland and about 2 hours south to Cincinnati. So easy driving distance. You can really get to any point in Ohio for about 2 hours from Columbus. You know, the other thing that's great about Ohio is we can get to about 60% of the U.S. population, the U.S. wealth, in 1 day's drive.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite talking points. Yeah, 8 hours, you got 60% of the U.S. market. It's one of my favorite talking points. I think what's cool too is that Columbus has really positioned itself almost as a new Austin. You know, obviously you've got a great football team at the Ohio State University. You've got the professional sports and the hockey and soccer. You get the state government, but this investment is just staggering. It's really staggering, and it's going to be a multi-decade effect.
Yeah, the growth that it's going to cause, and the kids that are going to want to come to the state to be there to be a part of it, is really what's driving. I mean, that's what happened, I think, in Austin. As you saw, that people want to go there because of the opportunity. I'm not completely bought into people are going to want to live wherever the heck they want to live because you can do anything like this through remote learning. I still think place matters, and it's going to allow Ohio to really boom because of having that.
Well, as somebody who builds stuff for a living, I'm sure you believe in place matters. But no, I think you're right. I think being a part of a community, and I've always been really interested. I think anytime you have a major university, especially these, the Power Five universities, University of Texas, University of Florida, Michigan, Ohio State. I mean, they are such economic drivers of the community. And you see what happened with Stanford and Silicon Valley. Having a university at that scale with the research institute, apparatus, number of students, just the number of smart people. Obviously, I know you spent a lot of time in the Raleigh-Durham area. That kind of economic impact and having a major university at the core seems to be a really good model that more and more states should embrace.
Every year you're getting new smart people moving in.
Right.
People that are young and energetic and want to learn, want to provide. It's just such a driving force. And
how long will it take from
other
areas
of the country where people are leaving? So these areas that have huge university clusters of great learning, just every year have a new chunk. I mean, it's almost a whole new city moving in every year. Ohio State's for like 10,000 people. Even the University of Cincinnati is, I think, almost 7,000 students every year moving in.
Yeah. How long will it take to get this facility online? It's going to take 18 to 24 months?
I think it's at least a 24-month build. They've got to do a huge amount of infrastructure just to get it ready with some water and sewage treatment areas, and then physically building the factory. So
what other is your background kind of economic development, like what happens in conjunction with that besides like the actual building of the plant? what kind of secondary, like entertainment or residential construction will happen? Will a Chili's move in there? Will there be, I mean, are other companies like, hey, we have to have a presence here too?
Yes. I mean, I mentioned the other companies that want to be close to it because they want to attach themselves to the technology and what's happening, have it driven to help their company. But the ancillary investment will be overwhelming, really, for the area. It's probably going to be a struggle for them to keep up with. Got to build new places for people to live, new places for people to eat, new bars for them to go to, new grocery stores for them to shop at. It is literally building a new town from scratch. And while it says it's in Columbus, it's really way out in the outskirts of Columbus. The city of New Albany actually is annexing cornfields to build this space. So everything will need to be built around it. My guess is the bulk of the couple thousand employees that they're going to hire are not going to be from Ohio. They're going to move new people moving here to Central Ohio to live and work there, and they're going to have to find all those new things to support them.
Do you have any kind of public transport? I mean, do you see people maybe staying downtown and taking light rail out to the new facility, or is it going to be all kind of traditional roads just because it's cheaper and easier?
I would love to see that, but I think it's all going to be traditional roads.
Yeah.
Eventually we're just going to get to the point though where you're going to have autonomous driving cars, and that's going to take out the need for fixed rail public.
What are you talking about, man?
That's my view.
That's never going to happen. I remember stealing a car when I didn't steal a car. I took a car out before I had my license. And speaking of cars, as you know, I grew up in Detroit, and there was a great stat this week. And if you saw it, I can forward it to you. But the parking garage at Detroit Metro Airport is one of the largest parking garages in the world. And Detroit is one of, it's not a huge city. But as you know, you spent time in Detroit and around the industrial Midwest, everybody in Michigan has a car, and the airport is like 40, 50 miles away. So, and also that airport almost makes like $100 million a year for the airport. In fact, they make more money from parking than I guess they do from flying. But it was just a really interesting, I thought, explanation of, the love of the car in Michigan, lack of public transport. The only way to really get to that airport is by train or by car. But I guess you're right. Once it's autonomous, what will happen when it's autonomous and they can't park at the airport? There's no need to park. What does that happen to the airport?
Drop you off and go. And I think a lot of these enormous changes are really only a generation away. Getting back to my daughter, it's not going to take long for her generation to get up that she'll have no interest in owning her own car. Back to fast fashion. It's a waste. Why would I want to have something that just sits here and it's not used 95% of the time?
Well, driving for me, like I love a good road trip, right? Like getting in, 5-6 hours, like it's fantastic. But commuting 10 miles and taking me 30-40 minutes, it's kind of absurd.
It's terrible.
Terrible. All right, let's talk about terrible. The Super Bowl. I'm interested about it because Stafford being a Detroit Lion. So now there's this whole thing about the Detroit Rams. Everybody in Michigan is rooting for Stanford. You obviously there being in Cincinnati. But also, I'm interested in the commercialization, the marketing, the gambling that's going to happen. But tomorrow's the big day. So I'll let you go first.
Yeah,
you can make your prediction, or we can talk about the commerce and culture. But what a day.
As a long-suffering Browns fan.
And you'll continue to be a long suffering.
Yeah, one of the few Browns fans that I want the Bengals to win. I know lots of Browns fans that love the Bengals to lose, but I love the Bengals to win. It'd be great for the city.
Do you have any Bengals gear? Do you have any Bengals gear?
I have no Bengals gear. I think they're going to win. That's my prediction. It's probably going to be the largest betting day ever. I think they're going to break all kinds of records for sports gambling. The NFL is just an unbelievable juggernaut for the real size and value of that league. I know you've sent around these stats of when Microsoft bought Activision and how big that $70 billion was. You could buy half the NFL or something like that. It's just not the impact they have culturally, economically throughout the country and really the globe. It's overwhelms the size of the actual business of the NFL.
Yeah.
The other thing,
they're relatively small businesses. They're not, teams are worth a few $1 billion, which is a huge number, but there's not, you're spot on. Like the Microsoft Activision thing, that Microsoft buying Activision is a bigger deal economically, but culturally, the Super Bowl is just an absolute, you're spot on, absolute juggernaut.
And this one, it being in LA makes it interesting, not only because the Rams have a little bit of a home field advantage, but it's really, I don't know that LA's adopted the Rams yet. It's still the St. Louis Rams. So I think the bulk of the country is either still likes them as the St. Louis Rams or is going to be rooting for the Bengals because no one cares about the LA Rams.
Like Cincinnati is definitely the sentimental favorite. There's no doubt
the
about
owner
that.
of the Rams, not only moving out there for financial incentives, but he sees it as a development project. The team and the stadium are kind of the lost leaders for building all the infrastructure around there to have new economic development happen, to build housing, to build commerce, to build retail, to build office. So that whole park that he's going to control, that's where he's going to make his money off of it, not just the SoFi Stadium.
Yeah, Kownacki. He also owns the the Arsenal soccer team in London, and they're actually one of the first teams in the Premier League to build state of the art kind of North American equivalent stadium. And yeah, I mean the NFL, you play what, I don't know, 9-10 games at a stadium, and it's a few $1 billion. So you got to find some other ways to develop it. And getting back to the cultural impact, I mean, you got some famous word that you always throw around. What's your famous entertainment?
Entertainment.
What's it again? Entertainment, right? So the whole thing is like you got to have a core anchor, but what other ancillary activities can you build around it?
Yeah, and I think sports betting is going to change the dynamic around neighborhoods next to stadiums. You hit on it. You build these $1 billion stadiums, and they get used 10 times a year. Maybe you throw a couple concerts and couple high school state championships or something like that. So you only get up to 20 games a year.
Yeah.
But when you start adding gambling, it starts adding this sense of anything can happen there. I could be there because that's where sports activity happens. And I'm going to go there and have fun. And there's soccer year round. There's basketball year round. There's baseball half the year, those type of things that you can get involved with. And so it's still this hub of activity.
Yeah, where the Wizards and the Capitals play here in DC, there's a William Hill connected to the building. So, there's a separate door between the arena and the sports book, but they're connected. So, fascinating to see that. I mean, I love sports betting. I haven't used any of these digital apps. I'm, kind of itching. Tomorrow, do I drop $25, $50 into that? And I think you're right. There's probably 10 other million Americans are like, yeah, I'm going to drop $50. I don't care. $25, bet on the length. Some prop bet, the length of the national anthem. And that adds up, man. If you get $50 from 10 million people, that's not a bad day's worth of business.
And I think, just taking a little segue from the Super Bowl, but the sport that's struggling the most in the United States out of this is baseball. And I think sports gambling is probably the only thing that's going to really let baseball survive for the long term.
How would you bet on baseball? Like in-game betting?
In-game betting. I think it's going to make the actual going to the ballpark. Baseball has 82 home games a year. It's a long season.
Long season.
Attendance is dwindling, but I think then you get folks that'll go there and you hang out and you have a beer and you can bet on that game and bet on other things. So while you're at the ballpark, you'll be entertaining yourself by not only watching the action on the field, but by gambling at your seat.
Yeah, I mean, I find baseball tedious. I was never good at it, But yeah, it's great to go to a ballpark, have a hot dog and a beer. And I routinely will do side bets with whoever I'm with, like betting on like the pitch. Obviously, there's betting going on amongst friends and whatnot in the stadium. So yeah, if the league can codify that, kind of make it proper, make it if you can bet every pitch, you certainly pay more attention. But is this going to be the cultural? Is this bad? I don't know. Like tomorrow, speaking of prop bets, like how many crypto ads are we going to see tomorrow? I mean, how many times are we going to see Caesar ads tomorrow? If you watch any kind of English Premier League soccer, it is like nonstop sports betting. In fact, they're wearing, sports betting logos on the jerseys. I don't know. Are we just sounding like old men? Is this the reality of the situation?
I have a feeling we're just sounding like old men.
What
it gets back to what we mentioned. I'm a big believer. At the end of the day, marketing drives almost everything. They're all trying to market to get our dollar to make money off of that, and so that they're going to overwhelm us with it. I mean, I think we're not going to stop the future of gambling. We're not going to stop the future of whatever crypto is. I don't know that I think crypto, everything gets thrown into this term of crypto, but we're essentially what it is we're getting rid of physical currency.
Yeah.
You're just not going to have physical currency. Everything's going to be electronic.
Yeah, and I think like what we saw with prohibition. I mean, if this activity is happening, if humans want to do this stuff, we might as well find a way to regulate it, tax it, make it safe.
Yep.
So it will be fascinating to see the number. I mean, there's an article here thinking 100 million Americans will bet on the Super Bowl. That's a third of our country will play some kind of bet, which is staggering to think about, because most of that, like 2-3 years ago, was happening amongst friends. Now it's being organized by these big multinational betting houses.
Yeah.
What's your sense about the commercials? Go ahead.
It's hard to get a third of Americans to do anything.
Well, except like the Olive Garden. Like everybody likes the Olive Garden, so that's probably 50% of America. Are you excited for the commercials? Are the commercials played out? What's your verdict on that?
I am excited for the commercials. Back to marketing fascinates me. I think I'm not very good at it. So it's interesting to see how that's going to get put together and gain people's attention.
Yeah.
I've purposely this year tried not to see any commercials beforehand. Now it's this whole kind of almost a month leading up to the Super Bowl. You're releasing teasers of the commercial. You're releasing it. They're leaking who the stars are, what ad companies put them together. But I think it's an important part of the game, but it's an interesting way to see not only who's spending money to do it, as we mentioned, the gambling and the crypto groups that are putting money up for these commercials, but which ones are actually good and will be memorable. I think there's lots of debate afterwards of, do you actually remember the brand that's being marketed, or do you just remember what the commercial was because it was funny?
Yeah, like I've written about this, like, can you name, last year's best Super Bowl ad? Nobody can ever name it. And even more direct, like, do you remember GM's ad last year?
Yeah.
So it was the Norway Will Ferrell ad, which I had to look up. The reason I did that, because to your point, GM is like teasing out, they're going to have, what's his name? Mike Myers' character, Dr. Evil, play a role, and they've been teasing it out. And I have no idea how or why this works. So, we've both done communications and marketing. I've never had the chance to like do a Super Bowl ad, but I would love to know what the hell they're thinking at GM, like how they think Dr. Evil or Will Ferrell is going to propel the company forward, and like who approves that, because it's the ad plus it's like the hiring. I mean, it's like a $20-30 million commitment. Like I would love to know the psychology of why they think this is like a good idea. It's interesting. State Farm decided, quote unquote, not to do a Super Bowl ad. They're doing some kind of TikTok promotion. But State Farm obviously spends money throughout the year around other activities, but they're going to do this kind of grassroots user generated content, and they're actually getting buzz for not doing a Super Bowl ad. Like they're benefiting from it. Anyways, getting back to it, I would love to know the psychology. Like, does this really work? Do you have to do it because it's ego? Can you explain it?
Involved.
Yeah.
A lot of ego involved. You get to, I'm sure you go out to the game too. There's just excitement around it. It's part of it's a pep rally for your company.
Yeah.
It helps your employees, helps the leadership. Getting back to alternative ways, State Farm is going to get as much mileage out of promoting that they're not doing a Super Bowl ad, putting on TikTok. I mean, how many people are going to be sitting watching the game and flipping through their TikTok feed while the game?
I would think a lot. I mean,
they're probably going to get more exposure from the TikTok ad during the game than they would for their 30-second spot that they.
I mean, there's no doubt. Like the 2-screen experience is kind of must. Like everybody's, tweeting and talking. Is that how you say it? So you're tweeting, talking, while you're watching the game.
Shows my age. I can't focus enough.
Do you say you're TikToking or do you say you're talking? Do you know? Can we look into that? We'll have to have our research team look into that.
Yeah.
We'll have our cracked research team look into that. What about the halftime show?
Also showing, it's this old school.
Do you know who's in the
rap.
halftime
This
show?
Great, yeah, I do. Only because they promoted it almost every commercial break during the playoffs.
Which is probably the key, right? Like if you're going to do that, that's probably because before they would just roll out the bands and perform. But you're right. Now it's like, hey, if we're going to do this, let's make it a multi-week effort, multi-month, have a 3-act kind of situation. The lead up, the show, and then the post. But you think it's going to be a good show?
I think it's going to be a good show.
Getting back to Detroit, I don't know if you saw this.
How can Dre and Snoop Dogg and all Eminem, how can they not put on a good show?
Well, Eminem. They brought in the real talent, Eminem from Detroit. That's like, I don't know if you saw, there's a local reporter in Detroit. She tweeted this out after the Rams won. And she's like, with Stafford and Eminem in the Super Bowl, this is like the closest the Lions will ever get, or Detroit will ever get to being in the Super Bowl. So it's really a Detroit debt. At the end of the day, Detroit's the winner tomorrow. Let's face it. All right. Let's go to our final segment. You like these cards?
Yeah. Good. I love your when I get a package, see Mark's handwriting, I know it's going to be a good.
You know it's me. It's not. It's either me or the Unabomber. All right. What are we reading or watching? You want to go first?
I'll go first. I'm watching all kinds of terrible things that have kept me entertained. So
I heard this new phrase. I shared this last night. It's called Dad TV. It's like targeted to guys 45 to 55. 90% of the content is World War II. Not surprising, but there's a legit term now called Dad TV.
Dad TV.
I was like, oh my
God. Bod and all that.
Exactly.
Dad jokes.
Exactly.
Speaking of dad jokes, Peacemaker. I think that's been my surprise find of the season.
What the hell is that?
Probably something else that you would find completely offensive.
Peacemaker? Why would I find it offensive? Should I Google this? I don't know what this is.
It's John Cena's superhero role.
I don't even know who you're talking about.
It's on HBO Max. It's one of the first good DC.
You lost me at HBO Max. Okay, but it's good. Go back. I'm sorry. So it's a television show, The Peacemaker.
Television show about the superhero Peacemaker. It's one of the good things that DC Universe has done. I know you're very into the struggles that the DC Cinematic Universe has had compared to the Marvel.
I literally have no idea the words are coming out of your mouth. I don't understand anything you're saying. I could better explain a black hole than what you're talking about.
Peacemaker, great show on HBO Max. Very disappointed in the Book of Boba Fett. Some more Star Wars nerdom.
Once again, what the hell are you talking about?
Should have just gone with speeding up the Mandalorian.
Where's the book? Where can you get the Book of Boba Fett?
Book of Boba Fett's on Disney Plus, where all the Star Wars universe is. Now that Disney owns all that. Also disappointed, but I'll see it through. Raised by Wolves on HBO Max started last week. Ridley Scott's sci-fi space adventure. First season was very good. Second season's not holding up so far. A couple episodes in.
Why? So I got into a thing where I'm not afraid to walk away from shows. Like I don't have time anymore.
I can't do that. There's very few that I've walked away from.
I stopped watching Succession. Like I was just like, okay, I get it. You meet up every week and sit in the same room, and I don't know. I've done it. I'm happy. And then so yeah, these 3 shows, I literally have no idea what the hell you're talking about. They sound fascinating. But to give you a sense of what I did last weekend, I watched a 6-hour George C. Scott interpretation, Mussolini, The Untold Story. What's great about this, it was shot in 1985. It's a classic made-for-television movie. But getting back to Dad TV and World War II, I didn't know anything about Mussolini, so I committed. I went down this black hole. There's not a lot of good Mussolini content, sadly, on the not as much as some of the other evildoers in the world. So I watched it. It was pretty good. Robert, amazing. This is 85. Robert Downey Jr. is in it. He plays Mussolini's son. Raul Julia, Gabriel Byrne. It's an amazing cast. Anyway, so that's what I did last weekend.
George C. Scott is Mussolini.
George C. Scott was Mussolini, and he played this role 15 years after he was, Patton, Fastlane was Patton. So that was in 1970. This was in 85. You can catch it on Amazon Prime. It's slow, The 80s were a time for slow entertainment. The pace is much more relaxed. But I don't know, pretty good. if you want a Cliff Note version on Mussolini, the Duce. I've been listening to this great pod, and I know you're a comedian.
Yeah.
Have improv training.
Improv comedian.
And we've been talking a lot about SNL. There's a great new pod by Dana Carvey and David Spade called Fly in the Wall. And they basically interview kind of their former castmates, former hosts, people that have been in kind of the SNL universe. And it's great. They're telling old-time stories, revealing, obviously, the trials and tribulations of putting that show together every week. Also, like Carvey and Spade, powerhouse, no joke, like very talented, but not maybe the success of like a Chris Rock or Eddie Murphy. And also even personally talking about how you struggle once you've like been on the show and you are the church lady and then you get left to your own devices, how do you rebuild your career? So a bit of entrepreneurship, great stuff about communications, but great interviews. They've talked to Chris Rock, Conan O'Brien, Tom Hanks, Daryl Hammond. So if you love comedy, if you love writing, if you love SNL, it's a really good pod. And you can listen at 2X, which is now my new favorite thing. I can't really listen to anything at 1X. So 2X, you can be done. You can be done in 20 minutes with a good episode.
SNL is having a revival, I think.
It's an amazing product. What happens? How much longer does Lauren stay in that job?
I don't know. It's crazy. And it seems like he is still so actively involved in how the show gets put together.
He is at the forefront of it. He's producing the other shows. He's also doing movies. He just won a Kennedy Award. He's in the 70s. I don't know. I think he probably wants to stay through maybe to the 50th anniversary. Is that possible? I don't know. Where are we at? Are we in season 45?
40? No, this might be 47.
Yeah. So maybe he wants to do 3-4 more years. This show, actually, this Fly in the Wall pod is really great because the host comes in on Monday. They pitch him a lot of ideas, and they write it up, basically on Tuesday. So they have Wednesday, Thursday to do stuff, prep on Friday. They do a dry run on Saturday, and they're literally even changing the script up until, they go live at 11:30. So just talking about that and the mechanics of like not peaking too early in the week, because you want to like deliver your best stuff at 11:30.
Live on Saturday night. Yeah.
At the end of the week. And just like the struggle to come up with new ideas. And even because they were talking to Hanks, and Hanks has done the show a few times. And Hanks was kind of wise to them because when you first show up, they're like throwing out like random ideas. So, you're a bartender and you speak Spanish and, because they have no idea what the hell they want to write about. And they're just kind of spitballing ideas. So Hanks was even, by the time I did this 3 or 4 times, I knew like these pitches were complete jokes or, because they're struggling every week to come up with new ideas. They're competing with each other and it's a really fascinating environment. But I think you're right. SNL's having a real revival. I use it. Especially for me as a communicator, I use Weekend Update as a really good touchdown. If stuff cracks through to the Weekend Update, it's like gone national. Like it's a big issue.
Did that segment convince you to switch over to iPhone?
It's funny you bring that up because absolutely not. It may be even more committed. For people who aren't following the story, this a few weeks ago, Google Android, which I love and use, was saying, hey, Apple, be nice to us. You're making our Android users second-class citizens. Because apparently when I send text to my fancy friends that use Apple, I get some weird, it labels me. I'm labeled. I'm wearing a scarlet
not only
leather.
labels you, and then on group text, it screws up every group text.
I can never comment in real time. So that's always a disaster. I'm totally, I am oscillated, that's not the word. I am ostracized in group text for sure. But it made it to SNL, so Weekend Update, Colin Jost did a joke about it. So yeah, I think that's what's interesting about SNL, how they find some weird story like that maybe only a handful of people know and they turn it into a joke. But the fact that it went national, made SNL Weekend Update, it's a real thing.
Yes. I think the other thing, which is I brought my daughter a lot into this since she was fascinated by me setting up for this conversation this morning. She's gotten into SNL, and it's a direct result of YouTube and TikTok. It fits perfectly for that format. It's not I need to stay up on Sunday at 11:30 or Saturday night 11:30. It's I can see it anytime, and I kind of find what's funny and what's going on throughout the world.
I think the ability to kind of do stuff for viral, make it interest, make it acceptable on the smartphone. Do you know this guy Ross Atkins? He's a news host out of the BBC. He does a show called Outside the Lines. He does these great kind of 4 or 5 minute explainers every show. Not every show, but few times a week. And I saw him speak recently, and he basically said, we can't do a television show. We've got to do a show that's like digitally friendly. And he really put the time and effort in to say, hey, how do we make this stuff work digitally? And he works with experts in that space. You know, for a long time, people would record stuff and just give it to kind of quote the digital people, how to make, you know, hey, can you use this? As opposed to being digital first and digital friendly. And even Stern like does great stuff, like putting out 2-3 minute clips of his show.
Yeah. Smart.
For this show, we won't be that smart. We're going to drop all
just go on
45 minutes on our listeners, to the 7 listeners we got out there. And no, we're not going to break this up. This is not digitally friendly, not handheld friendly at all. We're going the other way. If we could do this by paper, it'd be even better.
The Grumpy Middle-Aged Men podcast.
So we're coming up on 40 minutes. You think? I mean, I think this is pretty good. I mean, I don't know if you want to do great. I saw Joe Rogan interviewed Jordan Peterson for almost 4 hours, which is amazing.
Yeah.
4 hours seems like a long time.
That's
seems like a long time. Anything. Yeah, I'll do anything for 4 hours. All right, buddy. Thanks a lot. We'll see you. What's today's date? The 12th. So we're going to see you. On the 26th? 2 weeks?
2 weeks. Yeah.
It'll be a new world. Cincinnati Bengals. You really think they're going to get it done tomorrow?
World champs. Yes.
Close game. 31-28 or
close game. Quite a shootout, I think. I mean, it's the NFL. I mean, it couldn't have written a better script for all the playoff games.
A lot of gunslingers.
A lot of overtimes. Winning.
Are you going to place any bets?
I'm not going to place any bets.
No bets? Should we place a bet? Friendly bet.
Sure.
Let's place a chili bet. If when the Rams win, you buy me lunch Skyline, and the Bengals win, I buy you lunch at Lafayette Coney Dog in Detroit.
The original Coney Dog. That sounds good.
So we both win. It doesn't matter. We both get chili.
Chili for either.
All right, buddy. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Mark.